Now, how are we doing this morning, my excellent friends? Okay, good. Some of you are awake. That's good. If you would join me in 2 Samuel chapter 15, we are going to continue the saga of King David and his son Absalom. And as we dive into the text this morning, we are going to see the work of Absalom, David's son, who is a man wanting to sow discord in his father's kingdom. And truthfully, this is not going to be the most uplifting study this morning. Okay, but still, there are some valuable lessons to be learned from it. Okay? Lessons that will serve us well in not only our personal lives, but also in our experiences at our job, and even our experiences amongst our brothers and sisters here at church. Those groups, okay, that I just listed, are not immune to the effects of sowers of discord. They're not immune to division forming. So as we look at this text, we will find very important things to take with us so that we can recognize these people, these sowers of discord, when they present themselves. And that way, we'll be able to protect ourselves and those around us from the deleterious effects those people may have on us and those we care about. We can mitigate the harm that they can cause and maybe even completely defeat their ambitions before they're even able to bring them to fruition. Okay? The Lord hates division. And so the scripture speaks against such individuals, these sowers of discord, these people that would bring about division. In the book of Proverbs, chapter 6, we find in verses 16 to 19, 7 things that God finds detestable. It says, there are 6 things the Lord hates, 7 that are detestable to him: haughty eyes, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked schemes, feet that are quick to rush into evil, a false witness who pours out lies, and a person who stirs up conflict in the community. Now, that last one is the one we are talking about. A sower of discord among brothers, a person who stirs up conflict in the community. The Apostle Paul also warned us about these people in the book of Romans, chapter 16. He says in verse 17, I urge you, brothers and sisters, to watch out for those who cause divisions and put obstacles in your way that are contrary to the teaching you have learned. Keep away from them. For such people are not serving our Lord Christ, but their own appetites. By smooth talk and flattery, they deceive the minds of naive people. God is warning us about these individuals throughout the scripture. Now, if God tells you something once, that means it's important because God told it to you. If he warns you about it over and over and over, well, then you better pay attention and get it, because it must be important for you to understand, because he keeps telling it to you. And what we will see as we dive into this text is there are certain characteristics these sowers of discord show that we must see and recognize when we see them. This is the key. It is the key, because if you see and recognize these characteristics, you will recognize the sower of discord for what he is, and will therefore not fall for his schemes. What we will see is this. First, sowers of discord are unholy men. Even though they may give off a pious appearance, they are in fact not serving God, but are serving themselves. Second, sowers of discord rely on deceit and accusations to bring about doubt and distrust. And third, sowers of discord are strengthened by naive hearts. By the way, just to be clear, as we go through this study here this morning, I am going to use the term he when I'm talking about sowers of discord simply for ease of discussion. I am in no way insisting that sowers of discord are only men. Okay, women can be sowers of discord too. Okay, now that we know what we're looking for, let's dive into the text and see what God has for us to learn this morning, okay? Last week we left off in the middle of the story The crown prince Absalom had been brought back to Israel from Geshur, thanks to some artful scheming by Joab, but his restoration had not been complete. Though he was brought back to the nation, his father, the king, David, had refused to allow him to see the king because of what Absalom had done in murdering his brother Amnon. Okay, now, I feel the need to pause here really quick and remind all of us what should have happened to Absalom for murdering his brother. Absalom deserved death, but David would not do what was required of him as the king and carry out that sentence. In truth, it was David's inaction that actually led Absalom to murdering his brother in the first place, because Amnon, the one that Absalom murdered, should have also been given the death penalty when he raped his sister. David is stuck in this cycle of indecision. His lack of conviction, and you will excuse my language here, but balls to do what he should have done, left him and his family spiraling out of control. Finally, Absalom got so sick of his situation, of being restored but not really restored, that he resorted to some messed up tactics, burning Joab's field to get Joab's attention so that Joab would get him an audience with the king, insisting that if Absalom had done anything wrong, that he would accept the consequences and the punishment for it. David, however, did not administer justice to his son when he was brought to him, but rather embraced him and kissed him, thereby, for all intents and purposes, absolving Absalom of guilt from his brother's murder. This is wrong. David has just confirmed Absalom in his belief that he was justified in killing his brother. Absalom is guilty, and he should have faced the penalty for his crime. And what we see here is Absalom is clearly working from his own standards of right and wrong, not God's. God's law dictates that he should die. But Absalom has no concern for that, only for what he feels is right. He is an unholy man, and his father has just reinforced his unholiness in his son. The spiral of indecision by David continues to get worse and worse week by week. It says at verse 1, chapter 15, in the course of time, Absalom provided himself with a chariot and horses and with 50 men to run ahead of him. He would get up early and stand by the side of the road leading to the city gate. So some time has passed since Absalom's restoration to his father. And Absalom, this unholy man with no respect for the law of God, accrues for himself the things that are associated with his status as crown prince. He gets himself a chariot to ride around in and look important in. And he collects around him an entourage of loyal followers. He looks the part of a man who should be well respected, and everyone that crosses his path should respect him. He looks like a crown prince. An office, by the way, that he attained by murdering the true crown prince, his brother. But you don't see that when you look at him, do you? He is impressive. What he wants is everyone to look at Absalom and go, whoa, that guy must be important. On top of that, he sets himself up by the city gate. During this time in history, the city gate is a place where important meetings happen. It's where the elders of the people would meet to discuss important matters. So Absalom sets himself up not only to look the part, but he puts himself in the place where important people are. Absalom wants everyone to pay attention to Absalom and be impressed. Sowers of discord will do this. They will put themselves in prominent positions and put on a facade so that they look the part, so that people pay attention to them. beware those who seek the praise and admiration of others above serving God. Individuals like that, like Absalom here, are those most likely to stir up problems in any setting organized by position, platform, or authority. When someone is more concerned with the praise and attention of men than he is with God, then that person will stop at nothing to obtain that praise and admiration. This goes for politicians, pastors, any office where position and authority are wielded. Beware of a pastor who insists that you call him Pastor so-and-so. That man is not concerned with his standing before God, but his standing before you. When men become more concerned with self than God, more concerned about their position than the presence of God, more concerned with how they feel than the good of others, some kind of pain is likely to come. Division begins in the hearts of unholy men like Absalom here. Also notice Absalom's commitment to this endeavor. Some time has passed, and he is still set in his course here. And the text says that he gets up early and stands in this place by the city gate. My man is dedicated. He is driven. Okay? But what is he driven to do? Why has he set himself up at the gate? Okay? Well, the text continues. It says, whenever anyone came with a complaint to be placed before the king for a decision, Absalom would call out to him, "What town are you from?" He would answer, "Your servant is from one of the tribes of Israel." Then Absalom would say to him, "Look, your claims are valid and proper, but there is no representative of the king to hear you." And Absalom would add, "If only I were appointed judge in the land. Then everyone who has a complaint or case come to me, I would see they receive justice." Also, whenever anyone approached him to bow down before him, Absalom would reach out to his hand and take hold of him and kiss him. Absalom behaved in this way toward all the Israelites who came to the king asking for justice, and so he stole the hearts of the people of Israel. So what's Absalom's purpose? His mission in getting up early every day, getting in his chariot, bringing along with him his entourage of lackeys, and standing at the city gate? To sow discord. He is strategic in what he is doing. His mission here is to get in the ears and in the hearts of the people and heighten and arouse conflict. And he does this in several ways. The first way he does this is simply by his appearance and the ambiance that he puts off. He looks like someone that you should listen to and respect. But he goes beyond that. When someone walks by into the city, he feigns interest in them. They walk by and he says, "Hey, brother, where are you from?" "No way. I've got a cousin who lives there. Do you know so-and-so? It's a great place, isn't it? I wish I could visit more." He is disarming. Okay? He is charismatic. He turns on the charm. He puts everyone at ease and makes them believe he truly cares about them and their lives, when in truth, he's merely using them as pawns in his scheme. He employs deceit to further his plan. He even puts on a show to make it seem like he doesn't wish to be treated as his office of crown prince dictates that he should. When they try to bow down to him, he picks them up and embraces them and kisses them. He says, "Oh, no, not that. Come here. Bring it in." And he gives them a big hug and a big kiss. But wait a minute. If he didn't care about being treated as the crown prince, why did he go in and get all those things so that everyone knew that he was the crown prince? See, it's all a show. It's all deceit to disarm those that he interacts with. And then once he has them disarmed, and he has that person trusting in him, he plants the seed. He says to them, "Listen, I'm really sorry to hear about that. The problem that you're having, And honestly, I think your cause is just. But unfortunately, there's no one here to hear your case right now. I mean, if I were judge, I'd hear it, but I'm not, so I guess you're out of luck. But wait a minute. Is what Absalom is saying true? Is there no one to hear the case of the people that he's speaking to? No, right? David is on the throne as king. And have we seen David having any trouble hearing the cases of those that he rules? No. In fact, go back a chapter. Go back to chapter 14. And we can see David hearing the case of the woman that Joab sent to him to try and restore Absalom back to David, remember? David's doing his job. Absalom is the beneficiary of the very fact that David does hear the cases of those who come before him. If not for David hearing those cases, Absalom would still be in Geshur, in exile. The audacity it takes for this man to claim that David is not acting in his role as judge and king is outrageous. But Absalom isn't concerned with that. He's not concerned with the truth here. He's working a scheme. And he's not above lying to make that scheme happen. See, Absalom is an unholy man, unconcerned with God and his will, and so therefore employs deception in charming his fellow Israelites and feigning concern for their lives, and accusation in charging his father, David, in being lax in his duties as king. And he plants the seed that if only he were king, everything would just be so much better. And we see here that the platform for kingdoms dividing and churches splitting is the same. It relies on deception and accusation, usually either in response to some kind of injustice someone feels was done to them, or because that person is employing these tactics because they have a goal in mind, but figures of authority are standing in the way of that goal. And the unfortunate thing is, in their desire to see this goal happen, innocent people get caught in the middle. Absalom has stolen the hearts of the people with this show. Everyone is on Team Absalom. What a bad king David is, right? Just wish Absalom was king. But Absalom's deceit doesn't end there. It doesn't end with his show at the city gate. It says, at the end of 4 years, okay, now wait a minute and hold on right there. Look at how dedicated Absalom is to this scheme. It says at the end of 4 years. He has been putting on this show for 4 years, waiting till the opportune moment to enact his plan. Note this about sowers of discord. They will play the long game. Think about the effort to keep up this charade for 4 years. That's a long time. But rest assured, sometimes sowers of discord will play an even longer game, waiting for the moment to pounce and get what they want. Okay, it says, at the end of 4 years, Absalom said to the king, let me go to Hebron and fulfill a vow I made to Yahweh. While your servant was living at Geshur in Aram, I made this vow. If Yahweh takes me back to Israel, I will worship Yahweh in Hebron. The king said to him, go in peace. So he went to Hebron. Now, no record is given of Absalom making this vow. It's possible that he truly made this vow. It's possible. But honestly, Absalom's still scheming here. And there most likely never was a vow made, and I can say that for several reasons. Okay, first, Absalom has shown us that he is not a godly man, nor is he concerned with pleasing God whatsoever. It is totally out of his character to suddenly wish to not only do something to honor God, but to even go out of his way to honor God. Second, why now? Why now, Absalom? 4 years later. Why have you been waiting 4 years? If you made this vow to thank God after he restored you to Jerusalem, why have you waited 4 years to fulfill this vow? That doesn't make sense. And when things don't make sense, that usually means you're lying. Third, why Hebron? Why Hebron? Well, Hebron is an important city, remember? It's where David was crowned king. And it's actually the city from which David ruled for 7 years. It was the capital of David's kingdom for a while. So it would be the logical place to crown a new king in rebellion against David, significant in history, and yet removed from the actual place where David is so that David can't react quickly to what's going on. On top of that, it's also the place where Absalom was born. So Absalom can argue that he wishes to go there because it's a significant place in his life. It's his birthplace. In other words, if David suspects anything, Absalom has an out. What I'm trying to convey is that Absalom is working a scheme here. While it's possible that he made this vow to honor God, all signs point to a schemer enacting a scheme, even to the point of having plausible deniability if David suspects anything. Remember, David almost sniffed something out when Absalom wanted to invite Amnon to his murderous dinner party. So he works in that plausible deniability here. But David doesn't suspect anything and gives Absalom his blessing to go to Hebron. Now, we have seen it at play here already in the winning of the hearts of the people by Absalom. We are seeing it once again right here in this moment, and we will still see it more as we continue. But I feel the need to point it out here. Those that would seek to sow discord amongst brothers rely on and are strengthened by naive hearts. David, trusting his son here, who has shown himself to be really nothing more than a reprobate, will bring about disaster. It says, then Absalom sent secret messengers throughout the tribes of Israel to say, as soon as you hear the sound of the trumpets, then say, Absalom is king in Hebron. 200 men from Jerusalem had accompanied Absalom. They had been invited as guests and went quite innocently, knowing nothing about the matter. While Absalom was offering the sacrifices, he also sent for Ahithophel the Gilonite, David's counselor, to come from Gilo, his hometown. And so this conspiracy gained strength, and Absalom's following kept on increasing. Absalom now seizes the opportunity which his dedication to his ungodly scheme has brought about. He sees that he has the hearts of the people. His father is completely in the dark, and so he sends out messengers in secret, declaring that he is now the king. In secret. He even brings along with him to Hebron 200 people who know nothing of his treasonous plot to name himself king. See how those innocent people get caught in the middle? And to aid in his deception, he engages in offering sacrifices, which were the false pretenses upon which he and all the others came with him to Hebron for. He keeps up the appearances, offering sacrifices to God as a show to deceive those who have come with him. Now, just pause here. That is a super dirty move. He brings along these people and puts on this show to deceive them and counteract any doubts that they may be having. If, maybe they get this idea that, maybe there's a rebellion happening, okay? And this makes it seem like his rebellion has way more support than it really does. And now these individuals are caught in the middle of it. They could very easily be viewed as traitors, co-conspirators by David and the nation because they were guests at the coronation of Absalom. But they knew nothing of Absalom's intentions till they happened. What we can see here is sowers of discord have no concern for the collateral damage their schemes may cause. While Absalom and others like him can put on a good show of feigning concern for others, in truth, they don't see those other individuals as people, but as tools to be used to attain their goal. Absalom, however, does rally to those to him that he feels may be sympathetic to his cause. He sends for Ahithophel to join him. Now, who is Ahithophel? And why does Absalom think that he can find an ally in Ahithophel? Well, from a cursory reading of this passage, we see that he's one of David's main advisors. So this seems like an odd choice, right? Why would one of David's advisors be an ally? Okay? Seems like he should be really loyal to David. Okay? But Ahithophel is also Bathsheba's grandfather. So Absalom sees in him an ally, as he believes Ahithophel still holds a grudge against David for what David did to Bathsheba, Ahithophel's granddaughter, and Uriah, her husband. And Ahithophel seems to join Absalom in his rebellion, lending it to it an air of credibility. One of David's closest advisors has just joined Absalom in his rebellion. Now, Ahithophel may actually be in the same boat as those other 200 people who came with Absalom to Hebron. Because it says that Absalom sent for Ahithophel while he was offering the sacrifices. So Absalom's invitation may have also been extended to Ahithophel under false pretenses, and that's why Ahithophel came. So it's unclear where Ahithophel really stands at this moment. But it looks like he's on Team Absalom. And so the discord being sown by this unholy man, Absalom, via his deceit, accusations, takes hold and gains strength thanks to the naive hearts of the people of the nation, his father, his innocent people who came with him to Hebron, and Ahithophel. How do we avoid this? How can we stop discord and division from taking hold in our lives, in our families, in our workplaces, and in our churches? Before I answer that question, I just want to point out that this is all happening as a result of the downward spiral David has found himself in. First, by not following God's prescription for marriage. Second, by not being where he should have been. Third, by not controlling himself and letting his eyes see things that they should not have. Fourth, by trying to cover up his sin. And fifth, by refusing to do what the law of God called him to do, in paralysis of the knowledge of his own guilt, of his own sin. Are you getting it? Seriously, Dr. J pointed this out last week, and here I am again pointing it out to you this week. Someone apparently still needs to hear it. Don't follow David's example in this. Break the cycle. So how do we stop discord and division from taking hold? Well, first, we need to recognize sowers of discord when they're among us. And we have seen in this text characteristics those sowers of discord have. And just to be clear, this is not an all-encompassing list, but it's a good start. First, they project themselves in a charming way. They try to convey an air of trust and status. They surround themselves with the things you would associate with someone who can be trusted. They ride around in a fancy chariot. They have around them an entourage. They insist that you know the office they hold. They seem so spiritual, so loving, so godly. But it's all a facade. And we need to be able to see through that facade. And if you look closely, you can. Cracks will appear. However, in all honesty, sometimes it's very hard to recognize this at first. And in truth, Sowers of discord are able to keep up the act for a long time, a year, 4 years, 20-some years, maybe longer. But in truth, it's all an act, not done out of a good heart, but rather to bring about a goal of sowing disunity, though in truth, they look like the last person who would want to sow disunity. Second, these individuals rely upon the appearance of caring for others. The appearance of caring for others. But this care is simply a manipulative tactic in preparation for the disunity that they're getting ready to sow. Third, they find liberty to make consistent, suggestive accusations. Now, here is where the cracks begin to appear in the facade. This person who seems so loving and caring will take you out to lunch for the sole purpose of causing you to doubt the trustworthiness of the authority figures that stand in their way. They will make accusations to try and cause you to join them in their campaign against those authority figures, relying on your ignorance of the true facts. In truth, their accusations are completely unfounded. And you should know that when they make them, but their facade has lured you into a false sense of trust in them. And so if this person's saying it, it must be true, right? And that brings us to number 4. They prey on the unsuspecting. They rely on the trust that they have built via their facade to captivate naive hearts and thus win them to their cause through that person's innocence and faith. They rely on naive hearts. What this means is, if you are not one targeted by these individuals, you should wear that like a badge of honor. If you were not deemed worthy of becoming part of their clique of discontent, you should take that as a commendation that you were not naive enough to fall for their plot by their math in their head. On the other hand, if you have been an individual targeted by these sowers of discord, that should call for self-reflection and realization. And it might mean that you have a naive heart. This calls for a heart of wisdom. Look again with me at what the Apostle Paul says about these individuals. He says, I urge you, brothers and sisters, to watch out for those who cause divisions and put obstacles in your way that are contrary to the teaching you have learned. Keep away from them. For such people are not serving our Lord Christ, but their own appetites. By smooth talk and flattery, they deceive the minds of naive people. What Paul is saying is this: sowers of discord are unholy men. Even though they give off the appearance of piousness, of piety, they are in fact not serving God, but themselves. They rely on deceit and accusations to bring about doubt and distrust, and they are strengthened and rely on naive hearts. But what is also implied by what Paul says is that not everyone is fooled by these unholy men. What that means is, for those of us who are able to discern these evil individuals among us, it falls upon us to help those who may possess more naive hearts to see what we see. It falls on us to protect them. Now, sometimes those with naive hearts do not react too well when we try and help them like this. Doesn't matter how they react, it does not absolve us from our responsibility of helping them. We must watch over our brothers and sisters who may not be as far along in their walk with God and are therefore more naive, susceptible to the ploys of these individuals. And by the way, this responsibility does not just fall on the pastor of the flock. It falls on all of us. What this also means is those of us who may have more naive hearts, who may not yet have the discernment that walking with God bestows, thus making them targets of these unholy men, those of us like that should seek to grow, to attain that discernment. There comes a moment when naivety is a choice. James 1:5 says, if any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. God will grant you wisdom if you will seek him and ask him for it. So as we conclude here, what I pray is that God will protect you, your family, your relationships, and also his church. Let us not be fooled by the devil and his schemes. Let us protect those around us from sowers of discord, and let us grow in the knowledge of our God.